Right, a lot of reviewing and looking back and things on the channel. This week we've had the obvious aftermath and the following day aftermath to the debacle against Ferencvaros in midweek. We also had a great video from Jackie McNamara went out yesterday on the channel as he looked back on the men who managed him at Celtic. If you've got a spare 15 minutes or so, go and have a look at that. Some brilliant tales and the likes of John Barnes, Wim Jansen and Martin O'Neill in there. Tommy Burns as well, of course. But for now on the channel, we're going to look ahead. 3 o'clock kickoff for the game tomorrow against Motherwell at Celtic Park. A real chance for Neil Lennon and his players to get back into the way of things and get the fans a little bit back on side after the obvious disappointment of Wednesday night against Ferencvaros. Here are 3 things that Neil Lennon must do with his team selection tomorrow. Right, the first one is likely to be the biggest talking point among the Celtic support. It kind of went a little bit unnoticed in the midst of the horror show against Ferencvaros, but on Thursday we announced the signing of David Turnbull. We all know the story regarding Turnbull, the fact that he was so close to joining the club last year. We've paid around £3.25 million for him. I think that's the exact same deal that was in place for him last year, and I think he looks like a real good signing. He's a player who can add some freshness to our midfield that's looked really stale so far this season, in my opinion. I think the likes of Scott Brown and even Callum McGregor could do with a bit of fresh competition for a place, because they've effectively got no competition at the moment. And looking at this weekend's game, I simply think Neil Lennon has to start David Turnbull. He has a habit of taking it slow when introducing new signings to the first team. You look at Christopher Julian last year, the fact he missed out another Champions League debacle against Cluj. He's obviously taken it massively slow with the likes of Shved, and that's putting it lightly. I mean, Shved's likely to never get a chance. Bio never really got a chance, even though those two were Rodgers signings. You look at Lennon's signings, Klimala, Ismail Assoro, those guys have barely had a chance starting games anyway. I don't think Soro's even made a competitive appearance for us, but he simply has to do it quickly with Turnbull. He has to get Turnbull into the first team. There's a few reasons I've got for that. First of all, the fact that Turnbull's up to scratch. He started all 5 of Motherwell's games in the Premiership this season. He knows the league, so it won't take him time to acclimatise to his new surroundings. So he's fit, he knows the league, and also just taking the game on Sunday, it's against familiar opposition. He's playing against a team he knows well, he knows their strengths, he knows their weaknesses, so surely it makes sense to start him on Sunday. Added to that, as I say, the Celtic midfield isn't exactly going from strength to strength at the moment. It's really, really struggling, and it needs someone fresh to come in. However, I don't think Neil Lennon will start Turnbull. I don't see who he's going to drop. There's a bit of chat amongst the Celtic support of whether Turnbull's a centre mid or whether he's a attacking midfielder. A lot of people say he's an attacking midfielder. I would tend to disagree. I think he's more of a centre midfielder, just having watched him at Motherwell. I could be wrong. He could turn into a Ryan Christie rather than a Callum McGregor, but I think he's more of a centre midfielder. And in that area of the pitch, I don't see Neil Lennon dropping either Scott Brown or Callum McGregor. He doesn't have form to do it. Even though Scott Brown was awful, I think he'll see it as an opportunity to show faith in Scott Brown and show faith in the players, just judging from his kind of backtrack comments he made on Friday's press conference. So I think he has to start Turnbull. Do I think he will? Sadly not. Right, next one, and this will sound massively obvious, and I can't even believe I'm having to say it for a home game against Motherwell, who haven't won a game all season. I think they've only scored in one game this season so far in the Premiership. But Neil Lennon, you have to play a striker this time. He obviously didn't on Wednesday night against Ferencvaros, but he simply has to this time. He's got 2 options there. He's got Patrick Klimala, who he clearly doesn't fancy, and I don't see why he would start Patrick Klimala now. And he's got the new recruit Albian Ajeti, who I think he will go with. I think he's got to play a striker for this game. I was a little bit concerned by his comments in the press conference on Friday. I don't know if you've seen them, but he effectively made a throwaway comment, almost kind of defending his decision not to play a striker against Ferencvaros on Wednesday. He was quoted as saying something along the lines of, I played Ryan Christie up front and he scored the goal, almost making people aware that he was almost right to play Christie because Christie got the goal. But there's so many chances in that game that a striker would have scored. You think of the one Christie had in the first half that he kind of slid past the post when it looked easier to score, and I think a striker would have scored that one. So he has to play Ajeti up top, and this one I think he will. Ajeti obviously hasn't started for the club yet, but he's looked handy enough in the last couple of games, especially against Dundee United when he got the winner. And with no odds in Edouard for this game, he has to go with Albian Ajeti. If he doesn't, and we don't get a result, I'm a little bit worried for the reaction. I think it could be pretty toxic because people are right on the edge with this team and Neil Lennon at the moment, and in many ways the team will be glad that there's no fans at Parkhead for the game, because if there were, they might be getting a few boos early on if a few passes go astray. As it is, they'll be able just to pass the ball and not have to worry about making too many mistakes in terms of the reaction from fans, and in a funny way that could actually help the team get a result. And for the final point, this is where I feel like I'm clickbaiting a little bit, because in all honesty I don't actually have a third thing that Neil Lennon has to do, and there's a reason for that. There's so many players in that team from the game against Ferencvaros that I would have dropped. I could honestly go through them. I would have dropped probably the two centre backs. I would have dropped Greg Taylor, who wasn't the worst player, but I think the jury's out massively on him whether he's got it to be a first choice left back. I think he's a handy enough second choice. I would have dropped Scott Brown, definitely. I'd have dropped James Forrest. I'd have played with a striker. But the problem with all the positions I've mentioned there, other than striker, is that we don't have anyone to come in if we do take them out. If he decides to drop Christopher Ayer, who does he put in? Now, I know Nir Beaton's been mentioned. Apparently Nir Beaton's got a groin injury. If Beaton's fit, I think Beaton will play, but the talk is that he's got a groin injury, so he won't be fit. So who comes in? Does he go with Welsh, who hasn't played since, I think, Hamilton back in late January, something like that? Greg Taylor, who comes in? If Greg Taylor's not playing, we quite literally don't have another option, because Bolingoli's obviously massively out of the picture and will be forever. In midfield, I've mentioned David Turnbull, but will he actually decide to drop Scott Brown? Would Sorrell get a game if Scott Brown wasn't? Right wing, if James Forrest is going to be dropped, what would he do? Would he possibly play Frimpong that far ahead? I just doubt it. I don't think he sees Frimpong as a winger, because he hasn't played him there up to this point. So my final point would be, in an ideal world, or in a normal world, that Neil Lennon should be dropping players who underperformed on Wednesday night, but I simply don't think he will, because he's not got the options there to do it. So I'll be honest with you, I see a bit of a banana skin this on Sunday. I think Motherwell, as poor as they've been this season, will be confident after getting that boost in midweek, beating Glentoran 5-1 in Europa League qualifying. I think we're in a horrible state, and you look at previous disappointments under Neil Lennon. Last year when we went out to Cluj, a few days later we played Dunfermline in the League Cup, struggled badly. After the Copenhagen game, I think it was St Johnstone, we played in the Scottish Cup after that. I could be wrong with that, but we struggled badly in that game as well. I just have the feeling that we might struggle a bit in this game, but it's a massive game, because we could go into the fixture 11 points behind our rivals, something like that. It's maybe only 9 actually, but it's a lot of pressure on the team to win this game. They have to go and do it, and I'm a little bit worried, especially without Edouard. We lacked so much creative spark against Ferencvaros in midweek, but we need to see this team come to the fore, because as I detailed earlier, if we don't get a result, and by a result I'll obviously mean beat Motherwell, then the knives are out big time. And you think the reaction was bad against Ferencvaros, it will go up in scale if we don't get a result in Motherwell and we fall further behind in the league table. It's a massive game, and yeah, we need to see Celtic react here. I'm a little bit concerned, if I'm honest with you. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. Let me know what you think of the comments I've made. Do you disagree, agree? Probably the former. What do you think about the game? How do you think it'll go? Do you think we'll struggle? Do you think we'll blow the cobwebs away and win 4 or 5-0? Let me know below. Subscribe to the channel if you've not yet managed to do it. We'd massively appreciate that. Click the bell. Check out our previous videos. Tell a friend, etc, etc. And we'll speak to you next week. Worth saying, there'll be no reaction just due to it being a bank holiday. No reaction to the game against Motherwell, but we will be back with Jackie McNamara probably on Tuesday. Until then, take care and hail hail.